What is up, YouTube? It's Aaron back here with the channel, and today we are continuing our pro player interview series. Today I'm joined by Emre Socials. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. What about you?
Doing fantastic. I really enjoy this conversation, so I'm excited you agreed to join on me. We're just going to go over some of your history, just talk about your past playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, obviously your success playing Master Duel, and just learn a bit more about you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go.
Alrighty. So, your origin story. You began playing, from what I can see, back in early 2014. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the game and how you got here.
Yeah, so I have to say I have an older brother. He's 8 years older than I am. And when we were younger, like when I was like 4, 5, 6, around that time, my brother used to play Yu-Gi-Oh with like his friends at the playground, and I was always watching them. So one day I just started to play cards as well, and since that day, I always played with my friends in school, after school, like whenever we could. But we did never really like played with real rules. Like we played with like the anime rules, like 4K life points and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was around when Dark Armed Dragon came out. I started to Google like buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I came across a website that like sold cards. The site is like they're still vendoring to this day, and they hosted a tournament in pretty close where I live. Funnily enough, like I think on the next weekend. So I asked my mom if we can go there, and yeah, it's like it used to be the biggest regional in Germany. Like they hosted regionals once a year, and it was always the biggest regional in Germany. So I went there, I played some cards, and I figured out how to play the game actually, like way later. And that's how I got into the game, and I never stopped playing from that day on. I think I played like 2 or 3 rounds, and then I realized that okay, you're not on that level yet. And that's how I got into the game, basically because of my brother and because of that one website that I Googled, and they luckily hosted a tournament. So yeah, that's how I got into the game.
That's cool. My story is somewhat similar. Like I couldn't really play growing up, but my next door neighbors were like super into it, and we were obviously whatever 8, 9, 10, just kind of like playing together for fun with whatever decks we had at the time. And over the course of time, I got older and was able to start traveling for myself and get cards. And but like that origin story of just like playing together on your friends in the playground or like at each other's houses seems to be a pretty common trend for at least a little bit of us older folks that have been around since the show's been running and got us all into it in that way.
I think it's like a generational thing. Like I was born in '98, and like people around that age, we can theoretically go to the next topic that also like connects with the show.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, like after school in Germany, we had like animes being on TV from like 12 to like 12 p.m. to like 4 p.m. Like we had like Pokemon, after that Yu-Gi-Oh! We had like Detective Conan, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that really like formed the generation of people that got really into animes back in the day.
Yeah, so speaking of the show, what was your favorite? Was it the original? Do you enjoy 5Ds and GX? Like, what was your favorite of all that?
So I only watched the first three. I did not watch after 5Ds.
Okay.
Um, my favorite one is the original one, Duel Monsters.
Okay.
That's the one that I watched the most, especially with my brother back then. Um, and my favorite character is also Yugi, but the Pharaoh version, like Atem, I think it's
Sure.
called in English.
Yeah.
Um, but I also really, really like GX and 5Ds. I think 5Ds, we had no dub, or we still have no dub for like the last season, I believe, in Germany.
Hmm.
So at one point, the season just, or like the series just ended, but the story didn't end.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I thought that's the end, which I thought was pretty whack. But as I got older, I found out okay, there's like more, and then I started watching that. I think a few years ago,
Hmm.
and I think 5Ds is also pretty good. But I didn't watch this. I don't even know like the name of like any character after that.
Yeah. I think my story is pretty similar. I've enjoyed GX and 5Ds over the course of time, and I think I watched Arc V like very occasionally, but it's never something I got into. So I think the original three are definitely. I think like there's more focus on like an older crowd, like the characters, like you say, and definitely Yugi were definitely like portrayed as a little bit older than they made. Definitely made it easier to relate to as I was growing up.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, so you started playing, you said like in your childhood, you ended up playing a little bit over the course of time. I saw your first YCS top was in 2014. And then after
Yeah.
that, you took a bit of a break. So tell me about how that all played out.
So I started going to tournaments in 2013. I think my first YCS was a German one. I can't remember. And I went there with my dad and two of my friends. And after that, my dad realized, okay, I was still pretty young. I was 14, but he knew I had friends that were older than I am, that also played the game, and one of them was from my city, who I used to play with a lot until 2016. Um, so we started going to tournaments together at that point, and the first YCS where I felt like, okay, you're probably better than the average player was YCS London in 2013. That was Ravine Ruler format. It was right after I think I think they banned all the baby dragons,
Okay.
and so people started to play Ravine Ruler with like Dragon's Ravine, and some people also played Dragunity Ruler, but that deck wasn't that great. I bubbled that YCS. I lost the very last round. I was so sad back then. I lost against Jack Brune, who used to be a very good player at that point. And throughout the entire tournament, I played like 4 or 5 people that won YCSs at that point already.
Wow.
Um, so I felt like you can compete with them, even though I was way younger than them. In the end, it didn't work out with topping, but I still felt like, okay, you're not you're not a bad player. And
Yeah.
then the next YCS that I played, I couldn't go to every YCS back then because of, like, I was young, I had no
Yeah.
money and all that stuff. The next YCS was YCS Berlin in 2014, which I topped. I That format I used to play a lot with friends, like back in the day. So I was really well prepared. I played Evil Swarm, which I think was a good meta call back then because it basically you had a really good Merlin matchup, which was the best deck of the format. And Fire Fist was also pretty like manageable with like Excitement Knight. Because the quick play used to protect that from like Phoenix Gen or whatever. So you would always go like if you go second you'd nuke the board. If you go first you'd set up like an Ophion, and like if you back row and next turn if they have like tank you can go into Ragnar 0 and then you basically win the game. And yeah, I just started to go to almost every YCS since then when I was younger. I played nationals and Euros, which didn't go that well that year. But later that year, I top 8 at the YCS. I was 15 years old. Um, it's a funny story. My mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday because my birthday was around that time, and I wanted a 3DS, but I also really wanted to go to that YCS. And I was like, I mean, the rational person would probably take maybe at that age the 3DS because it's something that you have after your birthday for something from. Like if the trip is
Yeah.
over, the trip is over, right? Like you have the
Mhm.
memories, that's fine, but you don't have a 3DS. And I was like, you know what? I want to go to that YCS. I got top 8 and I wanted 3DS, which is funny.
That's sick.
Uh,
Cool.
I still have it to this day. Um, and I think I lost in top 8 to I also played Evil Swarm back then. I played that deck for like 1.5 years because I couldn't afford any other cards, and I felt like that deck was also pretty good that format.
Mm.
Um, so people always used to play Evil Swarm with like I don't know 20 traps. They would just like set summon Ophion set 5. But I felt like the deck doesn't really need traps, so I played only like I think 6 or 7 traps, which was not a lot back then.
Yeah.
That was like during a time where I used to play Compulse on almost every deck, Bottomless Trap Hole, like all of that stuff. And I played a lot of spells instead, which I think made my deck better than most other decks. And it also had like a lot of good matchups in the format. I feel like it was Burning Abyss, Shaddoll, and Clifford, and all three matchups were pretty easy, with Clifford being the easiest. And if I would have won top 8, I would have played Clifford in top 4 and then in the final. And I feel like if I would have won top 8, I could have maybe win the YCS, but I lost. I feel like in 2016, the year that I stopped playing, I hit my peak. I stopped playing after YCS Rimini in 2016. Before that, we had nationals in Germany, and my friends and I came up with a Clifford deck that also doesn't play a lot of traps. We used to play the Monarch spells that, for consistency, basically, like you would play Pantheism, Tenacity to like add Pantheism, and then just draw like, I don't know, 5 to 6 cards every turn with also like Card of the Mice, Upset, and all that stuff. So you would only play the best traps in the format, very few monsters, and just a lot of draw power. And I think to this day, like we were maybe the only people that played that deck. And I think I was the only one that ended up taking it to like nationals and YCSs, and I topped my national that year. And I also topped the YCS after Euros, with one set coming out in between.
Yeah.
I feel like that year, like my dream was always to go to Worlds, and I feel like that year I had good chances to top Euros, and if I hit a lucky run in the top cut, I could make it to Worlds. But I decided to not go to Euros for whatever reason. I think I was invited to a birthday, so I feel like I felt like, okay, you've been playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh recently, just take a break.
Yeah.
I took that break. I didn't go to Euros. It didn't bother me that much back then, but then I played the next YCS, which I ended up topping, and like I topped both tournaments that I played with that deck, and afterwards I realized how stupid my decision was. I still regret it to this day.
Yeah.
And I got pretty demotivated from playing. I think after that Zodiac came out, but I didn't play when that set came out, so that's when I stopped playing. I I stopped playing because I was mad at myself, basically, and yeah, that's when I called it a day.
So 2016, frustrated at yourself. Obviously, you saw success, and then you're like just mad at kind of the decision. You're getting a little bit older, so fast forward whatever 5 6 years post COVID. What brought you back? What brought you back into the game?
So I was still in the group chat with all my friends that I played Yu-Gi-Oh with. Like Eugen Haidt, he used to be a very good player back in the day. Josh is in our group and like a few others. And I think after COVID, they asked me to go to nationals in 2022. I played one YCS like before COVID, I think in 2021 or 20, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But I basically didn't touch cards for like 5 years. I just played whatever. I didn't do that well. I didn't even know like what my cards did or my opponent's cards did. I was just there for like the vibes.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come to nationals in 2022, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll come. Why not? Like, it's always a good time. Like, just chilling with them in general, just playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, sure, why not? And then we went to a friend's house. I looked at the meta back then. It was like Sword Soul, branded, Based, I believe the deck was called.
Yeah. The adventure pile with occupied.
Yeah, the adventure piles, and then there was Flu. And my friends just handed me over Flu and told me to play that deck because you don't really need to know anything else other than normal summoning your cards. If your opponent can break the board, they can break it. If not, they can't. You win.
Yeah.
And that I was like, sure, why not? Deck seems fun. I got the deck. I went to nationals. I bubbled. Um, I bubbled without knowing like anything. Like the game changed so much in these 6 years.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know what a link summon was. I didn't know anything. Still somehow bubbled. I guess I got really lucky. I don't remember a lot from back then. Like I didn't know what my opponent cards did. I was reading my own cards. I was playing Mystic Mine and just sit on that. Some people couldn't out it, so they just scooped. Um, and then I basically got hooked up playing again. I played a sneak. I think I pulled a Starlight. Um, Sold the card and just bought every stable imaginable with the money. And that's how basically I got back in again. From just getting asked to play again to pulling the Starlight, from doing well. Like those three factors, I think,
Yeah.
made me really enjoy the game again.
Yeah.
And since then, I went to every YCS.
It's a nice little like aligning of the stars, right? Where like your friends invite you back, and like that's kind of how I've always been drawn back in the game. Is like, oh, I get bored with it or whatever. I have other things to do, but my friends are like, you want to go hang out and play Yu-Gi-Oh? And I'm like, I mean, obviously, like I enjoy seeing my friends, and then eventually, like that love of the game comes back in, and then in your situation, like you get a windfall in the
Yeah,
form of like
exactly.
a rare card, and just get to pull everything that you want. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think especially the community where I live in Frankfurt in Germany. Like we're pretty tight. I have like I consider like some of the people that I met through Yu-Gi-Oh as one of my best friends in
Mhm.
general, and just spending time with them, playing Yu-Gi-Oh, not playing Yu-Gi-Oh is always a good time. And I wish they asked me earlier because I didn't know better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. I mean, I think the community of Yu-Gi-Oh is one of my best. Like I've talked about in the past, like all of my best friends I met through Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm forever grateful for the life that I've made as a result of this game. Which sounds very silly, but I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
any way to
I
put it.
agree with you.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I agree with you.
yeah. Alrighty, so let's get into a little bit of more the competitive side. Like obviously you've seen a lot of success both at the TCG and Master Duel. We're just gonna get into some of your background, and then we'll go into your Master Duel run. So, how have you historically decided what decks to play? It sounds like you went from Evil Swarm into Philandry, so you've generally preferred a little bit more of the control strategy, but also you've done like different things with it. Like you said, you didn't play as many trap cards. Your Philandry's lists have obviously had like some special text into them. So, how have you like gone about that deck building process?
So I don't know exactly what I thought back in the day, like 11 years ago.
Mm.
Um, I I so I always like to play either like stun or control decks. I play a lot of different stuff as well. I used to play a lot of combo decks back in the day, but just like not at premier events, but for like regionals or like some other tournaments. But at premier events, I always used to go back to like the more controlish decks. Um, what I like about like how I build my decks most of the time is I look at the format and look at mainly the non-engine that people play and try to play the best deck into the non-engine of my opponent. So for example, when I played Blue Eyes for a while, people used to play cards like Droll, Fuva, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
And Blue Eyes didn't really care about that. I mean, sometimes it annoyed you, but most of the time you didn't care. And I think for like not much changed. Like I do a lot of theory in my head, like what could work and what could not work. I don't really play that much outside of like locals, and at locals I often just play like fun decks, or I don't take them that seriously. Like I
mm-hmm.
just go to locals to see my friends. Um, I I try different approaches every time. I feel like what most people don't do is just try out things instead of like I think most people either like copy something, like one person comes up with something and then they copy it and they never try something else. For example, when people used to play drill beam and like everybody played one drill beam in Blue Eyes,
Yeah,
and I felt like that was by far the best card of the deck. You can play three, and I used to play three for like a long time, and then people also started to play two or maybe three. Um, I'm just trying everything out. I like playing a lot of hand traps in general. I didn't play them in Flu, but I like hand traps a lot. Like ideally, I would just play 20 hand traps and 20 engine cards, and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Other than that, I think it's mainly control, trying
Yeah.
out different approaches, and that's it. And
Yeah, I think
for
that ability to like not really innovate, but like it is a form of innovation where you're just like even if you look at like a deck list and then but like then you in addition to that you also look at like the rest of the format and then you start looking at the ways to interact and like you said the way that you do it is you kind of reverse engineer right where you look at the non-engine and then you kind of like counter the non-engine and then kind of like build the deck around that which is something that I've done in the past as well. Like you see like the way the meta is trending. Like we'll say for nationals last year, where you were playing the Blue Eyes deck, it was really easy to point to cards like Droll and then like to a Perulia because they were in there to counter the Rizal deck, to counter Malice, etc. So if you were able to find a deck that was able to succeed in that format, obviously you put say, Blue Eyes to a pretty far in that tournament, if I remember correctly. You topped I think German nationals.
I played
So yeah,
French
like
nationals here.
French
I got
nationals.
top
Yeah.
eight.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're obviously able to like read the meta and take advantage of that read, and it seems like you've been able to do that pretty well over the course of your time.
I feel like if I look at my deck list that I top with and compare it to other deck lists with people topping the same event with the same deck, I feel like my deck always looks a lot different. Um, from like, as I said, like I used to not play a lot of traps in Evil Swarm or Clifford. I used to play like the first flu deck that I topped with. I basically played Mystic Mine with like a few flu cards. Like I
Winning
had three
strategies.
mine, and I felt like you can either the only two options how you can win against here was if you shifter them, or the three options basically. You shifter them as one option. Option two is you go first, and option three is you like you don't even break the board. You just force out every negate and then use mine and then just wait what
Yeah.
happens. And I think not a lot of people played mine that event. In the next event that I top flew with, it was YCS Leo. That was basically like the full power tier meta. I decided to not play the continuous spell in flu, which I think no one ever cut from that deck. Um, and the next Euros, when Statue got banned, I also cut Shifter from my deck because I felt like it's not that great, that format.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something no one would ever do, like cut Shifter from their flu deck. If you can play it, just play it.
Yeah.
But those are like things that worked out for me, and I think just trying things out is like maybe something that I do that others don't, which I can only recommend people to try things out, even if they maybe sound dumb at the beginning,
Mm.
might work out.
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of confidence in yourself to like think, oh, maybe ideas are good, and that's something that I've struggled with over the course of time, where maybe I'm getting close to an event and I like start to second guess myself, like, oh, is this idea good or not? And I end up making or going back to an original idea that wasn't as good because I didn't have that self trust. And you also need to get comfortable being wrong. Like sometimes you're gonna take an event to it, like a deck to an event, and you just made the wrong call, and like that sucks. And you just try and
Yeah,
learn from it and do better in the future.
definitely. Like as I said, when I cut Shifter from my Euro deck list, I played Nationals like a month before with Shifter, and a completely different deck list in the same format, and I think I dropped after like 5 rounds. I don't know.
Yeah,
I maybe didn't even play 5 rounds. I just made the wrong calls, and I mean that happens.
yeah,
Especially if you play a rogue deck. Um, I feel like it either goes really good or really bad. There's like no in between,
yeah,
and that happens. I mean, yeah, that happens.
yeah. Especially if you're like kind of targeting a specific matchup, like in the tier format where you can expect to play tier, you're kind of targeting that down. But let's say you get unlucky, you play against the Pendulum Magician deck or like whatever other options that are in the format. You just get unlucky, and that's unfortunately just like something you have to accept when you're playing an anti-meta deck and compared to something that's like a tier one deck.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that is more problematic nowadays in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I feel like the hardest rounds for me when I play rogue deck are the like round 1 to 3,
Yeah,
where you maybe face like also other rogue decks. But those rogue decks nowadays, like if they go first and they know like their 1 card or 2 card combo, you lose to them if
Yeah,
you
for sure.
don't have like a hand trap. And back then, like 10 years ago, you could like it sounds stupid, but you could player with them. Like
Oh yeah,
they
100%.
they're not putting up a great board because the game is slow.
Hmm.
So if you play like 5 or 6 turns, they will make mistakes eventually.
Yeah,
But if you play, I don't know, against White Forest now and they normal Sylvia know their combo, it doesn't matter how good you are or
yeah.
that's like one issue, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation. Like over the course of time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, the spread of information, like YouTube, is really accessible. Like obviously, I'm doing it now. There's like spreadsheets. There's a lot of ways for people to like get that entry level of knowledge into the game. When before, like back in the like let's say 10 years ago, YouTube wasn't as accessible and there wasn't as much content out there. So you were able to kind of consistently get through those first 4 or 5 rounds just based off of like being better than your opponent. But the average player is so much better now. That's going to be less likely.
Like the average player is much better, and I feel like the game got way more combo heavy, which also benefits maybe not so great players, which I think is a good thing.
Hmm.
Like it shouldn't be like only the best players should always win. It should be like everybody should have a chance. And I
For
feel
sure.
like that's one approach the game is leaning more towards nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, and as you said, like information is way more accessible and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Alrighty, so what transitioned you over to Master Duel from the TCG?
So when Master Duel came out, I didn't start with the TCG. That was like half a year before I started playing. I found out about the new game coming out on Steam, which is like Yu-Gi-Oh, and I felt like, okay, just download it, just play a bit. And I think back then the highest rank was Plat, I
Yeah,
believe.
Platter. I think so. Yeah.
And I crafted like a Grand Maju OTK deck basically to like play a bit. That deck was pretty expensive in hindsight if I think about it. Like it had a lot of URs. Um, but I got the deck somehow from playing solo and like doing dailies and whatever. And I played until Plat 1 for like the first 2 seasons, and then I got bored.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really play Master Duel that much. Like I stopped playing Master Duel, I only played TCG. And when I found out that like they're holding a WCS qualifier, like a Worlds qualifier, I was like, okay, that sounds really appealing to me. Like I always wanted to play Worlds, and it's also like one tournament, but it's not like our continentals or your continentals where like you have a bad run for like 2 or 3 rounds, it's over.
Yeah.
It's a grind, and I felt like um, I could do it if I just prepare enough, and that was tier format back then. And I got the tier deck, and the qualifier for Worlds is what hooked me up into Master Duel,
Hmm.
and I started playing Master Duel, and yeah, that's how I got into the game, basically because of the Worlds qualifier.
Cool. So, well, Master Duel qualifier is you see the opportunity to go to Worlds. I think that's for a lot of people. Were just like it's obviously a very different format, like you acknowledge. Like TCG, it's whatever 12 rounds plus top 64. This year it'll be even different. It'll be whatever 16 rounds and then top eight. But this is a very different situation where you're playing for 72 hours and it's just going to be how mentally strong are you, how well are you playing under high stress and low sleep, and it's a very different format to what most TCG players would even consider like a normal tournament structure.
Uh, yeah, so at first I was really against that structure.
Hmm.
I felt like it is very unhealthy, and playing is not that much in the foreground. It's more like how much you can endure playing, like in general, like how much strength you have mentally and physically,
Yeah,
and also like time. If you work on Fridays, you can't play until maybe like 4 or 5 p.m.
yeah,
If you work on Monday, you probably cannot play until 6 a.m. That's at least for us in Europe.
yeah.
I don't know when it starts in America, probably
Like
late night.
1 a.m. Thursday until late Sunday.
Yeah. Um, But the more I played those tournaments, the more I felt like the best players are qualifying, which is a good thing.
For sure.
We like I think by now we had like 10 Duelist Cups and we have only like 4 different winners.
Which is insane. Yeah, like that is elite level of production by Brian and Task and
Yeah,
qualifying.
exactly. They're just insane. I don't know how they do it. I know that both of them are really really great players. For like this year's Worlds, I'm in a server with Ryan and I see him play sometime, like in a Discord call, and he's just insane. And if he holds that level for like a weekend, I can see him winning every Duels Cup. Of course, there's variance involved. Sometimes you make a deck call or whatever that happens, but I think having that consistency is like the key part of doing well in Duels Cups. And I like the format now. I like it. It's like a bit of like Stockholm syndrome, I would say, where you're like you're suffering sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's still fun.
Uh-huh.
It's still
But you still
fun,
think
and
you do, right? Like if you don't enjoy it,
yeah,
then
exactly. I mean, you're still enjoying it. It is fun, but it is really stressful.
for sure.
And some people cannot. They just can't do it. Like maybe like physically. Um, which I think kind of sucks that some people are getting excluded from like trying to qualify for Worlds because they just can't handle like the stress and everything. It gets painful after if you play enough too much. But other than that, I think the format is really good. My opinion on that changed throughout the years. I used to be on a very different side of like opinions, but now I really like the format.
Fair enough. I mean, it's hard to argue with. Obviously, you said like the level of consistency that players have shown. Like, it may not be the perfect system, but it does generate quality duelists at the end of it for sure. So
Definitely.
that is how your team qualified back in 2022 or 23, right? So how did
And
the Snipehunters form after Josh won the qualifier for Europe?
so Josh hosted a tournament in before the qualifier, an Edison tournament where I drove with him. And we spoke about the qualifier, and I was looking like he was driving. I was looking over, and I was like, "Bro, if you qualify, you have to take me." He didn't say anything. He said, "We'll see." He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. Um, since I know him for like at that point, I knew him for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
He knew how much I wanted to go to Worlds. That was like always my goal, my dream, and everybody from our friend group, like from the closest, like our core friend group, they all went to Worlds. Um, one of them played Pokemon Worlds. One of them played Dragon Duel Worlds. The other one played TCG, and then Josh also played TCG. So I was the only one who never like got to like experience Worlds. And when he qualified, Quantle was. I'm just seeing the picture on the top right now. Quantle looks so young on the picture.
Yeah.
um, Quantle was the one that like was pretty close to Josh, and because Quantle was almost able to catch Josh in the ranking, Josh wanted to take Quantle with him,
Hmm.
and then he had like one spot left, and because he knew how much it meant to me, he asked me if I want to go to Worlds. Um, I remember being on a phone call with him that day. I was like walking around because I was so nervous and so happy. Um, that's basically how the team formed. Quantle being so like close to him in the ranking, and me being a good friend that I always wanted to go to Worlds is how the team formed.
Cool. So how did y'all prepare? Because obviously you were the champions that year. So what did you do leading up to the tournament that like led to that success?
So it was like a new ground for everyone because it was the first Worlds.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people tried different approaches. What we did back then was we used to be on Discord with the other European team, which consisted of Costas. the Greek player that qualified,
Yeah.
Herman and Odin, and together we would try out like different lineups. Like we knew that tier was by far the best deck, and that one player will be on tier, probably never switching, maybe once or twice against like if we know someone has like a stun deck. And then we were just looking at like other good decks that like people could queue in. We knew that the other two players needed a deck for tier, like an anti-tier deck. And then we just looked at the format and figured out that Exo Sister and Dragonlink were the best two counters that format. I really tried to play Flu, but I couldn't convince Josh to let me play Flu. So we basically had like the tier player set on tier and like a second deck to counter done, which I think came up twice. We had the first two decks for like the second and third player, and then we basically just needed decks to like queue blind. So basically to queue against the non-tier players of the team. And we ran like Josh and I, or mostly Josh, we came up with Naturia Runic. I was He lives pretty close to me, so I went over to his place to test with real cards. And he was like, "Yeah, I want to try out this Naturia Runic deck that I like think could work." And we played for like 2 or 3 hours, and that deck was insane in testing.
Yeah.
So he wanted to play that deck, and then it was basically me needing basically a first deck. And Lab was also just pretty good in general that format. So I decided to play Lab. We didn't play Sprite, which was really popular in that format, because I feel like Sprite was really weak into Maxi. And just not that great going second in general, so we didn't play Sprite at all. Um, and I think our lineup, like not only the 6 decks that we played, but also the pairings that we had, were the edge. On the other European team, they had the same 6 decks, but they had a different lineup. I think they combined. I don't know what they combined with what, but they made it differently.
Yeah.
And I think that really hurt them. I think our decks and our lineup was really good. And I don't want to glaze Josh too much, but I feel like he is just really good at deck building. And the Master Duel format suits him a lot, I feel like. He's a good deck builder in general, but I think under those circumstances, he shines a lot more than usual.
Yeah. I mean, especially when it's a new format, no one has that kind of experience in terms of dealing with the shared card pool. Like the people that he's obviously been playing for a very long time, has had a lot of success. You generally expect those kinds of people to like be able to transfer it over, and he obviously was able to do that for y'all.
I was surprised how weird some teams built their decks. We had multiple teams that like tier was by far the best deck, just plain tier. But people used to mix tier with like branded cards to make the deck just worse, in my opinion. Some Task team Task played Punk as his second deck, and he took away the Ishizu Millers from the tier deck to play in his Punk deck. Like choices like those made me really wonder what went through their head while preparing. Because I wasn't like while testing, I wasn't sure if our choices are the right ones. Because it's new for everybody, so you're not that confident if your decisions are the right one. But I felt like after seeing all the decks after round one, that our decks have to be like just better than theirs.
Yeah. So obviously, World Champion 2023. That's the pinnacle of that format. You're auto qualified for 2024. How did you prepare for 2024? You were obviously unsuccessful in defending your title. You're able to make it to the finals though. So what did you do between those years and leading up to 2024 to try and repeat?
So after we got confirmation that we requalified, I started streaming on Twitch. I can speak about that a bit if you want to. So basically, Konami hosted a tournament in Malaga, Spain, like an invitational.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I wanted to come. And I was like, sure, why not? Sounds like a great opportunity. Sounds fun. I went there. I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people. And then I realized if I stream, I have like so many more opportunities in the game in general. And that's how I got into streaming. So I played a lot of Master Duel in that year. I got every deck like when it came out. I crafted like every deck like once a new pack came out every month. So I was really in that format just for like an entire year. And we didn't really start testing until after Euros, which was, I think, a month before Worlds. Um, like they introduced ranked gaming into Master Duel, and what I did uh, after Euros was I would try to get Master One really quick to play as much ranked as possible to test different decks. And I think we just did the same things as we did last year. Like we look at the format and try to figure out which decks are the strongest. I think back then it was Fire King Snake Eye. And just basically did the same thing, like one hard counter into a bad matchup. For example, I played Centurion. We only came up with that deck because of Santoli. Santoli played that deck in ranked, and I think he got top 10 at one point. So I started to play it as well. And I realized that the deck is insane, that format, into everything except Fire King. Fire King was not that great of a matchup. So I had my first deck basically, which was Centurion. Um, I played the deck a lot in ranked. I got really, I think I got top 10 multiple times in ranked that format. Um, but I would just like, I would mostly win against everything that wasn't Fire King. And then when I played into Fire King, I lost. So I knew, okay, I need a second deck that's good into Fire King. And Josh asked me if I can make Flu work. And I was like, I was just waiting for that moment
Yeah,
because I didn't want
you're praying for that question. Can you
to.
make flu work? Of course.
I was like, say less, say less. I built like a super anti Fire King flu list that was really good. Josh played Fire King and a really like anti Ubel deck as a second deck. And Quantal was really confident with Tier, so he played Tier and Voiceless Voice, I believe. And every deck served its purpose. Like Tier could just high roll anybody, so you would most likely just queue Tier the entire weekend. Josh would queue his Fire King deck into everything that's not Ubel, and I would queue my Centurion deck against everything that wasn't Fire King. And once again, we didn't play Ubel that format, which was probably also with Fire King the most popular deck, because we felt like the deck is too inconsistent and sometimes loses to random hand traps or whatever. Like it was really wordable, but it was like high risk, high reward, which we didn't want to do. I think I was the only flu player that tournament, and I was also the only Centurion player. There was one OCG player that plays super heavy Centurion, but other than that, my two decks were unique. And Quantil's and Josh deck were like, I think Tier was not that popular, but everybody played Fire King.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we just did what we did the year before, and it worked out again. I can only speak for myself. I got really lucky in day one. I won a lot of coin flips, and the ones that I didn't win, I had like 3 hand traps, 2 starters, or like 4 hand traps, 1 starter. They had no hand trap. So I got a really good run, and it would have been insane if we won back to back. I mean, playing Worlds is already like crazy. Winning it is like unbelievable. But winning it back to back would be, I don't know, like I don't know, would have been crazy. I'm happy that Ryan's team won, or yeah, it was Ryan's team that year, Team 7. Um, Ryan really deserved it, and Jesse and Ray, they also really deserved it. they also deserved it the year before, and I think us winning once and them winning once is like fair for everybody. And I feel like the only player that I really, other than myself, that I really want him to win Worlds is Tasku.
Yeah.
Because at this point, he also really deserves it.
Yeah. I really enjoy spectating the Master Duel format. If I'm ever able to go, that'd be really cool. But like how you describe like the deck building process and like how specifically your first and second deck interact with each other, I think that is probably the most interesting point or like part of Master Duel. Obviously, you're still playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but like that is like a very unique aspect of Master Duel Worlds that is just like not anywhere else in the game. Very cool to spectate.
Yeah, I think the format is fun to play and also pretty fun to watch. Like all of my friends always watch the Master Duel stream when I'm playing at Worlds, and they told me they enjoyed it more than TCG, even though they're all TCG players.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on at the same time, you can switch between screens, and there's just a lot of variety. Like there are so many random cards that won Worlds in Master Duel or top Worlds.
Yeah.
Where you would like most people don't even know those cards, and only because the format forces you to play other cards, those cards are able to shine, which is something that I really like.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is really cool is the storylines. Like obviously we had Team 7 versus Snipehunters back-to-back years. And then obviously this year we had a new a finalist, and both you and Team 7 struggled. So what do you think led to those struggles this year? Was it preparation difference? Was it something else? Like tell me a little bit about what happened this year.
So I think our preparations this year was again pretty good. I think this year in the format there was not a lot of like deck variants. Like everybody knew that one player will be on Malice. Everybody knew that one player will be on Ryziel. And it was almost certain that the third deck is probably going to be Memento. Like those were by far the best three decks. So what this year I think really mattered were the second decks. On Master ranked this last month, I only played Ryziel. I think everybody knew that I will be playing Ryziel at Worlds, but we knew it, like what other teams also played.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing to hide. Like we knew that he's the Malice player, he's the Ryziel player, so he has to be the Memento or Mermail player or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there was not a lot of variety this year. What really mattered were the second decks, and I think we got some insane second decks this year. Like Ryan played Arcana Force FTK, which basically turn skipped you.
Yeah.
I played Sky Striker Tempai because I felt like that deck was really good into Ryziel. People played Vanquish Soul again, Gimmick Puppet, like a lot of like weird decks to like counter the counter of the counter, basically, which could go into like an endless cycle where you try to like counter the next thing and then you always think a step forward or back. What we did this year was basically I was like we knew that Quantal will be the Mel's player because he was pretty good with the deck. Ryziel is a deck that fits my playing style, so I was the Ryziel player. So we tried to figure out a deck for Josh, and he likes Memento, and I think Memento was a great deck. Obviously not as good as the other two, but still a good deck.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the most common lineup that we also decided to pick. And then we were thinking about second decks. At first, I was supposed to play Mermail for the mirror match. Because we would think, okay, if I like my Ryziel deck was really heavy targeting Malice. I played Lancea main in my main deck. I played Meowth. So I needed something to queue into Ryziel basically, and maybe something I can just queue into the third player sometimes, without knowing what he would queue. So I tried Ryziel out against Mermail, And I realized pretty fast that Mermail cannot break the Ryziel board where you go Duo, Starlish, and Baguska.
Yeah.
So I knew that okay, it can't be Mermail because if I go second with Mermail, I just lose. And the next option was Striker Tempai. So what I did was I was basically queuing the deck in solo, draw opening hands, see if I can break the board. And I did that for like nights, like multiple days, multiple nights. I was just playing solo, drawing 5 cards, play them out. Like I would play upstart, draw another card, and all that stuff. And I think at one point we built a deck that was so consistent to break the board, like 8 or 9 out of 10 times, which was enough for us to bring that deck as a second deck. What we struggled with was the targeting protection from Starleash. And Josh came up with playing Shizuku to lower the attack of everything so you can target the cards. So with Shizuku, basically, you could out the board almost every time because if you draw striker cards, you can target everything. And if you don't draw striker cards, you probably have like cards that don't target, for example, Eclipse or Droplet or whatever.
Yeah.
So that deck was really good. Josh ended up playing a stun deck as a second deck to beat Malice. We felt like, just percentage-wise, we needed something that was like super anti-Malice to have like a good matchup. Even though if it's like only 60-40 favored. Like Malice is so strong in the Master Duel. And it was even like as strong before like the Ignitor cards. Where you had no 50-50 matchup. You also had no like 80-20 matchup where you could, I don't know, play like just anti-Malice cards. They would still sometimes put up a board and you'd lose. So we just went really like stun, anti Iron Wall, Soul Drain, that kind of stuff. Because we thought that's our like biggest chance to beat Malice. And Quantal played Mermail at the end, just to have a second deck against Stun, which is also a good deck in general. So if we make the call to play Mermail into what we think could be Stun, if it's not Stun, he's still playing Mermail, which is a good deck. What we didn't consider at all was FTK decks, mainly Gimmick Puppet. We spoke about it for like a minute, but then felt like it's not a good call. And I think Gimmick Puppet was a good call for Worlds afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I should have played it because I played Senpai a lot this year at Worlds, playing against Gimmick Puppet twice. But even the games where I queued into Ryzel and I queued it against Memento once, I lost, but I was still favored. So I think even though I lost, I made the right decision because I was favored. Just mathematically, I should win more games than I should lose.
Yeah.
I just happened to get the matches where I lost.
Yeah, I mean that's sorry, I was just
Yeah.
add in like it's kind of like the inverse. So like the qualifying process for all these people is 72 hours of a lot of dueling, and then you get to the world's process where it is 5 matches, best of 9, where you individually are only playing 3 best of 1s in a tournament. So even if you think you had a lot of prep that was successful, and obviously you were able to do so in 23 and 24 and 25, even if you think you had good prep, which it sounds like you had a lot of good arguments and logic behind all the decisions, sometimes you just get like bad matchups, or like you get a good matchup and still just break. Like that's just sometimes what's going to happen in the course of a short slice.
That's how the game is. I mean, Master Duel is also pretty variance heavy, especially this format.
Yeah.
I played,
100%.
as I said, I played Dryziel. I went first 5 times or 6 times. Out of those 6 times, I just passed with bricking 3 times. I just passed my turn, and twice I just passed to one hand trap. That's how the game is. I mean, that's just how it is. Sometimes you break, sometimes you open a good hand.
Yeah.
I don't want to say being unlucky is an excuse, because there were also games that we could have won that we lost.
Yeah.
But I think this year we got really unlucky. Me queuing, like I played game one, round one. I played my Tempai deck, and my opponent made me go first because he was playing the same deck.
Yeah.
Like
I
things
mean,
like that.
that's crazy unlucky. I guess in the grand scheme of things.
It happens. I mean, we got lucky twice, and that's just how it goes sometimes. But I think we got really unlucky this year. I got really unlucky with bricking. Josh got really unlucky. Like I think the last 6 games that he played, he didn't play a single Yu-Gi-Oh game. He just played non-games.
Mm-hmm.
Quantal got sometimes really unlucky where like his opponent would Purulia him. Quantal would normal summon a card, and the card that he drew off the Purulia was the one of Lancea, for example, like things like that. But
Yeah.
it happens.
For sure.
That's Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, and I think like as I've gotten older and like a little bit like more knowledgeable about just like math and everything, as I was growing up, like I would get like way more upset at the losses that I couldn't control, where like they drew the one of or like they top decked whatever. But in those situations, you kind of just like have to understand that like you did, assuming that you played well up to that point, you did everything you could, and like whatever happens is like in the cards. And like now that I've gotten older, I'm way more frustrated at like the losses that I could control, and like wanted to play better in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. That's like one thing that I also realized for myself, as you said. If my opponent just has the right cards, or if I don't and I lose because of that, I think that's fine. Because I am winning those games as well sometimes where I just have the right cards. And it's just majoring, I think, like accepting those losses, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely something that you'd also need to like that people have to learn, including myself.
100%. It's
Like
yeah, you're good.
Last year at Worlds, I misplayed in the final, and I got super upset about it. I was so like devastated because we lost. Like I mean, we were in a really bad seed anyway. We lost the first set 3-0, and I think even if I didn't misplay, I would have still lost. But you never know. There's like always the chance of winning,
Yeah,
even if it's
100%.
like 1%. You'll take that chance. And I misplayed in the final, and I was devastated. And
Yeah,
this year, I was also like sad that we couldn't top or win again. But this year it wasn't that bad because I feel like it wasn't in our hands this year.
yeah. Like you felt like you prepped as well as you could have, and sometimes you just sit down and you get screwed. Like that's the beauty and like the sadness of like Worlds only being once a year is like it feels really good whenever you perform that well, but whenever you get this rough year, like obviously you have to go through qualifying again, trying to perform again in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, we'll get to the last part, which is memory lane. So just some quick stuff. What is your favorite card or deck of all time?
I have two favorite cards. My like obviously Snipe because of Team Snipe.
Yeah,
But the one card that I grew up playing the most was Rescue Rabbit. I I played Dino Rabbit when I was younger. Then I played it in Evil Swarm, and I played that card for like almost 4 years straight in all of my decks.
yeah.
Um, that card means a lot to me, and my favorite deck is probably Flu.
Rescue Rabbit has a special place in my heart as well. So I feel so. Best remembered format. When was like your favorite time playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Was it one of the Master Worlds you won? Was it one of your early formats that you have nostalgia for?
There are a lot of formats that I like. I think the format that I liked the most was the I think the set was called Next Challenger. It was the set after Duelist Alliance,
Yeah,
where Shadol Burning Abyss got Shadol got I don't even Shadol
Shadol,
got
Burning
Shadol
Abyss
Fusion.
got Traveler, I think. Virgil.
Yeah, Burning Abyss got Travel and Fire Lake, and the Clifford's card came out that set. It was when I got top 8 at YCS Milan. That was my favorite format.
Good one. So what would you like to see banned or unbanned currently in either the TCG or Master, whichever one you have been playing the most lately?
Um, well, I can speak for both. In
Okay, perfect.
TCG, probably. I mean, the latest ban list was really good. I have to say.
Yeah, agreed.
Uh, I think they address a lot of problems that were in the game. I would like to see banned probably more floodgates, more lingering floodgates. I think they're even more annoying. Um, basically every floodgate and lingering floodgate. There are some that annoy me more than others. Um, those for sure. Unbanned, I think currently, I mean, I'm probably the only one that wants to see the card unbanned, but the wind barrier statue. It's funny because I tell you to ban floodgates,
Yeah,
but then I want my floodgate back. That's a personal thing though.
of course.
um,
We're all biased a
but
little bit, right?
yeah, other than maybe Heavy Storm. I think I like Heavy Storm. And
And
for
yeah, Master
Master
Duel, same
Duel,
one.
I can't tell you a card. It has to be at least 20 cards that should be banned in Master Duel.
There is a
Um,
lot of variance in that format, and I don't know. Even if you ban Maxi, I think that is a very difficult format to balance with
yeah,
Appaloosa,
I
and
mean,
just like the power level of all the decks is so insanely high in that format.
exactly. I think you have to ban Maxi 100%, but with that you have to ban like at least 20 other cards that
Yeah,
you would probably never think about because they're so random. But once Maxi is gone, those cards become a problem.
yeah, like
Um,
probably Electromite. Like I don't know if Ice Hold is legal, but like just those types of cards that just like facilitate really ignorant combos.
they're all legal. They're all legal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I think you need to ban Maxi and then every card that might become problematic because Maxi is banned. And then you need to ban cards like Apo, um, Baron, like those generic end board pieces I think need to be
Yeah,
banned. I think Called by the Grave and Crossout Designator are really annoying, even without Maxi. Um, and then just some uh, random cards like I think Link Decoder should also be banned now because Malus is so strong. Baguska, like all of these cards that are like format dependent.
yeah. So favorite experience playing, that could be a tournament that you traveled to. Was it like a tournament you did well at? Like what is your favorite memory of playing the game?
Um, Again, I have a few. The best experience that I ever had, and I think that I will ever will be winning Worlds. Like the moment I realized that Quantal is winning the game, which will make us the world champion. Like the emotions that I had in those a few minutes were unbelievable. Um, Other than that, I think before that the best experience I had was topping my first event, which was YCS Berlin.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't believe it that I won the last round on the bubble, which secured me a top cut spot. It was unbelievable.
Those are good. Yeah, I mean, like your first and then your best placement. Like, how much more? What else can you ask for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what? Like you have obviously accomplished the pinnacle of UU success. You're a world champion. So what do you want to accomplish or experience moving forward? Are you gonna keep playing Master Duel? Are you prioritizing the TCG? Like, tell me a little bit about your future.
So, um, I'm still thinking about that personally. Like, what are my goals moving forward? Um, I feel like I was always a good player, but I was not like your Joshua, your Jesse, like people that expect to go to, like they don't maybe expect to go to Worlds, but it's their goal every year, and
Yeah,
it's a realistic goal. And I felt like that goal was very realistic for me, so I probably overperformed and overexceeded my expectations and maybe everyone else's. So I feel like expecting or trying to like work towards worlds again may not be that realistic. Um, at the moment, I'm streaming more again. I want to focus on that more because it's something that I enjoy a lot, and I don't know where it will go. Maybe we'll qualify. Like I'll qualify again for worlds. Maybe I'll qualify for TCG if I have a good run at Euros. You never know. I'm not doing like a world's race grind. I'm not going to regionals every weekend. Um, I'll see. I think I already did everything that I could ever ask for. So I'm just enjoying the game and see where it goes.
I think that's the best way to do it in general. You're just lucky enough to have experienced success prior to that point.
Exactly, and I think because I experienced all of that, I'm a bit more chill about it. I don't stress myself about anything game related. I don't like try to force things game related. I'm basically just chilling at this point.
A good life.
Yeah, a lucky life.
Okay. Okay, rather be lucky than good, but you obviously have a bit of it both, so can't ask for much more. All right,
Yeah.
my friend. Any final thoughts or shout outs before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out all my friends that I made along the way. I think it would be unfair to name a few now because there are so many that mean so much to me, and I don't want to forget anybody. Um, to anyone that's interested to see more from me, I'm streaming on Twitch regularly, like twice or three times a week. Maybe Aaron can put my
Yeah,
Twitch
I'll
link
have it in the
down in the
description.
description. I would be happy if you guys check that out. And other than that, I'm happy to be on here. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a
That's it.
pleasure, my friend. It was nice getting to meet you. Hopefully, I'll travel to a European event again, and I'll meet you in person.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, it was a joy doing this. I love these conversations, hearing about everyone's origins and their stories, and it's yours did not disappoint. So, congratulations on your success. I can't wait to see what you do moving forward. And thanks for joining. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.